If your dog guards food, toys, or any other object that they value, I'm going to help guide you through this issue and give you actionable strategies to address it. Now, obviously, one of the things that many dogs will guard is their food. Having a consistent feeding routine can actually reduce your dog's anxiety about food scarcity. Making sure that your dog is well nourished and feels fulfilled can hugely contribute to making them feel more relaxed around food. Nom Nom is an amazing food that can help you establish a great routine by providing your dog with timely meals.
Somebody's excited.
You don't have to have all of the skills of a veterinary nutritionist and be an expert chef to give your dog a perfectly balanced, fresh cooked diet. Nom Nom will send you these pre-portioned, super healthy, gently cooked fresh meals designed just for your dog. They're all individually packaged for your dog. This blend has chicken, sweet potatoes, yellow squash, and spinach. And you can see all of the ingredients in there. I'm gonna have a special link in the description, trynom.com/Zach, to get half off a 2-week supply. Resource guarding isn't just a dog thing. It's something that virtually all animals do, even humans. It's all about trying to protect something perceived as valuable. This behavior is really instinctive in dogs, so why would one dog be more likely to guard resources than another dog? Behaviors like this are a pretty complex mix between their genes and the environment that they grow up in. This is why you might notice some differences in how some dogs react and why some dogs are more set off than others. And even though resource guarding behavior is common in a lot of different animals, every dog is unique. So it's all about understanding your dog's individual behavior, and I'm going to help you with that. To really understand what's going on here, we have to look at something called ethology, the study of animal behavior. Our dogs have a really clever way to tell us when things are not okay in their mind. It's all about their body language. At first, the signs of resource guarding can actually be quite subtle. Your dog might avoid the situation, they might freeze up.
Her face kind of tensed up.
You might even notice them avoiding eye contact or even showing the whites of their eyes. And if an individual dog still feels threatened, they can escalate their behavior through growling, snapping, or even biting. Okay. Think of this as an escalating ladder. Each step up means they're feeling more defensive, and so those reactions become more intense. When a dog starts to resource guard, there's a lot happening under the hood. Their neurochemical balance changes, their heart rate and their breathing might start to speed up, and they're generally more alert. It's kind of like their body's natural alarm system is going off. Spotting these signs early is key if you want to address resource guarding effectively. You'll want to step in with strategies that help de-escalate things or calm things down. But don't worry, we're going to get into that. Now, if we peel back the layers, the science of resource guarding really reveals the classic fight or flight response. So for example, imagine your dog spots a threat to their favorite toy. A surge of adrenaline rushes through them, preparing them to either stand their ground or flee from the situation. Remember, this isn't about a dog being stubborn or having faulty genetics. It's a survival instinct that's part of their evolution and can be more pronounced in some dogs over others. When it comes to resource guarding, our dog's amygdala is at work. That's the primal part of our brain and theirs that sparks off these fight or flight reactions. So let's think of a human example, like walking down a dark alley and we hear a sudden noise, but we can't see what's causing the noise. You might feel certain physiological sensations like your heart pounding or the desire to quickly get away from the situation. That's your amygdala reacting to a potential perceived threat before you even have a chance to make sense of what's going on. And these physiological responses are consistent with both dogs and people. This reaction isn't personal, it's just them responding to a perceived threat. And this is the uncomfortable part sometimes, that when our dog does respond in this way, it can trigger our own amygdala, which could actually cause us to disproportionately react to our dog's own disproportionate reaction. So watch for that one. Broadly speaking, our aim here is to manage our dog's reaction while managing our own reaction. Try to comprehend our dog's action and respond in an appropriate manner. We really do need to clear up some frequent misunderstandings about resource guarding, though. One prevalent myth is that using punishment, particularly physical corrections with our dog, will deter resource guarding without causing unwanted side effects. Do you see why addressing the cause is so important when addressing this? If our dogs are likely to be fearful that they're going to lose something, and then we punish them for reacting that way, probably taking the item away too, haven't we validated their fear? How is that addressing the dog's underlying emotional cause? That's what we need to ask ourselves if we're trying to be intellectually honest about this. Now sure, it's true that punishing a dog might stop an outburst in that moment because your dog is suppressing their instinctive reaction to avoid punishment, but it's not tackling the root of the problem, which is the dog's desire to defend what they feel is theirs. So punishing dogs who are resource guarding can actually form a link between the object that they're guarding and the punishment that they are used to receiving, which can actually amplify their guarding behavior over time or cause them to even more fiercely guard an object when you, their primary teacher or trainer, are not present. Wherever possible, preventing resource guarding from taking place or before it escalates, well, that's ideal. I mean, by the time that your dog feels the need to snap, that's not a productive time to address this. They're likely way too triggered to learn anything meaningful. And this is really true with all kinds of aggressive behavior, so keep that in mind when we talk about topics like this. I mean, let's take my own puppy, Inertia, for instance, who displayed some resource guarding behavior. That was actually the first time I had ever seen her display any of this behavior at all. Now, when she first started signs of guarding her food, I knew that I needed to take the time to show her how to feel more relaxed. I want to get her really comfortable with me going in her food bowl, taking it away, giving it back. Taking early action like this can really help shape your puppy's developing brain. And that reduces the chance of strong neural pathways, which ultimately lead to and reinforce resource guarding. This is why we talk about environmental factors that can influence resource guarding. Her most significant guarding outburst was with my wife Bree when Inertia was eating a doggy snowball, which is really just shaved ice and chicken broth. With Inertia, I adopted a pretty standard strategy of showing her that when humans approach her during mealtime, that's actually a good thing for her. So we'll give her a chance to get into it here, just like she was before. Okay, I'll take the camera. We're gonna create a trail away from the chicken broth and ice. Good, and then, yeah, another trail, good.
Inertia, look.
Give her one more piece, maybe ask her to lie down and stay.
Lie down. Stay.
Now come over and pick it up. That's great.
Aha.
Perfect.
I took your chicken broth.
That's good. And now maybe just give it back to her. And do you see how this can have the effect of changing your dog's emotional response? Instead of being nervous that they're going to lose something that they want, they actually learn to become excited when humans approach them, or at the very least, to not be fearful. These days with Inertia, all signs of resource guarding have completely subsided. Here's your recipe. Picture this, your puppy is eating, right? You calmly approach, maybe you drop a delicious piece of chicken or a treat in their food bowl or around their food bowl, just enough to convey, hey, when I approach, I bring amazing things. Now, this might help your puppy associate you approaching with those positive experiences rather than becoming nervous or scared. That's going to diminish their desire to protect their food. This approach provides you with the opportunity to potentially take away your dog's resource for a brief moment and immediately give it back before they even have a chance to react, so that you can convey to them, look, even if I do take it, it's not going away forever. And what we're reinforcing here is the idea that they don't need to protect the item, that they can trust you and that you will return that item. Now, it is possible that a dog could start to show signs of uneasiness during that process. Good job. Okay, right there, he's a little bit possessive. And if that's the case, you're likely moving too quick and you need to reassess. I'm not gonna pull it away from him. I want him to leave it alone voluntarily. Leave it. Yes. If we see any undesirable emotions from our dogs during this process, then we need to be very careful and move very slowly. You'll be well on your way to resolving this issue when you focus on the underlying emotion that your dog is experiencing. Now, it might be a little bit trickier with dealing with a resource guarder who happens to be an older dog because the behavior has become more habitualized or solidified over time. When he first came to us, he was much more defensive around possessions like this. Just look. However, there is still hope in managing and resolving this issue. We're going to rely on counterconditioning and desensitizing. Now, I know this sounds like jargon, but it's straightforward and very easy to understand. An example of desensitizing would be getting used to a loud sound. For example, when I was a young adult, I once lived right next to a railroad track. The train was so loud, and I had to ask myself, will I ever be able to sleep through this loud noise? But it quickly became normal for me to be able to sleep all through the night with that loud train because I became desensitized to that loud noise. We really want to pin down what is setting off our dog's guarding behavior. It might be particular people, other dogs, or children when they approach your dog, or other specific scenarios that you've identified. All she's ever known is if I want something, I gotta take it. She's used to having to really assert herself to get what she wants. She was the smallest dog in that entire group. Once you have a grip on what's causing your dog to react in this way, you can develop a plan where you can gradually expose them to those factors, but in a way that is comfortable for them. So the idea is to not just confront her and confirm her fears. The idea is just to let her know there's no need to protect it. When we're dealing with complex issues like this, it's all about keeping them under threshold, not getting them to go above threshold to then correct them in hopes that this will have some meaningful, long-lasting change without negative side effects. So if your dog continues to react, you are putting them in a situation where they don't feel safe, and that's not good dog training. It just means we need to work up to that more slowly. The idea here is that first we keep our dog's distance from those triggers reasonably far. Well, if your dog feels more comfortable eating their meal behind a baby gate or even in another room, that's a great place to start. Think about ways that you can adjust your dog's surroundings, their environment. These are all things that we have control over. That way you can help them feel more secure while you are giving them general, gradual exposure to things that cause them to feel uneasy. And I can't stress this enough. We want to do this carefully in a way that does not trigger our dog. So that's desensitizing in a nutshell. Makes sense, right? While desensitizing was just about giving them gradual exposure until they're comfortable, counterconditioning aims to fundamentally change our dog's emotional response. This is amazing. This is easier than it sounds. In fact, this technique embodies one of psychology's most amazing, underutilized discoveries. Do you understand that we can essentially override an unpleasant emotion in our dog? And we can do it through purposeful, very straightforward actions. Okay, so sticking with the food bowl example or a toy, whatever you want, say they become uncomfortable as a person approaches. We'll start approaching them at a distance that doesn't stir up a reaction. We'll want to offer them a high-quality treat, something that they love even more than what it is that they're guarding. If we're dropping a piece of steak while a dog is chewing on a bone, I mean, most dogs are probably going to find that steak more appealing. So I might toss turkey or chicken or really good dog treats in the vicinity of that dog bowl while they eat, while I remain way back here. This is a great way to really de-escalate your dog and put them at ease. Good man, look at that. And I can pick up the bone. By being back here, I'm desensitizing them so they're comfortable eating with me being here, and I'm counter-conditioning them by showing them, hey, you get great things when I am in the general area. And guess what? If I keep doing that, I can probably do it from right here. Same thing. And before you know it, your dog's looking to you saying, this is great news for me. The overall goal with counterconditioning as it relates to resource guarding is to get your dog to associate your approaching them with favorable outcomes as perceived by them. See, what we're actually doing here is we're working to flip our dog's emotional response to that trigger. We're transforming an experience that they previously found stressful into a positive experience for them. And as you do this exercise a few times, you'll probably start to see that your dog begins to trust you more. And trust is the bedrock on which we build dog training success. Every dog is unique, and what could seem like a small step for one dog could be a huge leap for another. Now, when it comes to dogs who resource guard in the presence of children, by far, the most important thing is supervision. Both kids and dogs lack fluency in one another's language and communication cues. This can be a just catastrophic combination, which is why it is your responsibility as a parent to make sure things remain safe for all parties involved. You must prevent any unpleasant interactions. And that's completely in your power. I'm going to tell you how right now. Do not allow your children to interact with your dog during these sensitive moments. Kids can often behave very unpredictably, and this can contribute to a dog's anxiety. Your goal is to teach your kids that they need to respect your dog's space, particularly when they're playing with their toys or during mealtime or other instances where your dog might feel defensive. While we're on this topic, children should also be taught not to approach and disturb dogs while they're sleeping too. Either way, both dogs and children are learning to coexist with one another, and you need to be the parent who keeps things under control in that situation by managing the dog and the child and keeping things from escalating. People, especially kids, don't always recognize those early warning signs in dogs. Sometimes some of those signs that are tough to pick up on for people, especially kids, are simple freezing. A dog might freeze before they're about to snap, and that might not inherently look aggressive, but it could well turn into that. Now, if at any moment you don't feel qualified or comfortable to address this, or maybe your dog has a more extreme case of resource guarding, don't hesitate. In fact, I would encourage all of you struggling with this issue to bring in a competent professional well-versed in modern conditioning methods that do not use aversive dog training techniques. I have to say that because probably close to half to a majority of dog trainers will come in and use aversive techniques that could potentially make this issue worse. Throughout this video, you've been seeing clips of how I address this, and I'll have links to those videos in the description. Plus, I'm going to have links to professionals that I trust that you can consult with virtually to see if they can help you go to the next level on this. It's always a good idea whenever we're talking about aggressive behaviors like this to consult with a vet to see if there are any underlying medical conditions that might be contributing to this, particularly in cases where the behavior seems new or out of the blue. Resource guarding can be a complex issue, and it has deep evolutionary influences. It's not a mark of a bad dog or a failure of training. Instead, it's your dog asking for empathy and understanding. By being patient, being consistent, and using modern, humane methods, you're very likely to improve this behavior with your own dog. And to make your dog even happier, go to trynom.com/Zach to get 50% off a 2-week trial of some of the best dog food imaginable. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'll have those links below, and we'll see you in the next video.